You know, after 10 seasons of Brewed, one thing that we've learned is that we are always learning, meeting so many incredibly talented people and hearing their stories, learning about the art and science of brewing. So we thought, why not test our knowledge? This week, we're heading to Ames, Iowa, where the future of craft beer is being brewed, literally, inside Iowa State University's own Brew Lab. Forget textbooks. These future brewmasters are getting their hands dirty thanks to their very own Doc Brown.
Did you hit your head on a toilet? Is this like a flux capacitor kind of situation?
No, I think he hit his head on a toilet.
Okay. And we'll introduce you to two grad students who aren't just brewing some serious suds, but scientific breakthroughs.
I'm sorry, my brain just broke in half.
Class is in session on this episode of Brewed.
The future of brewing is taking place in real time, and I mean that in a lot of ways that are going to blow your mind. This is Professor Robert Brown. Professor, first of all, what an incredible achievement this space is. Help me understand the brewing science program, how it started, and why you're doing it.
April 2020, this was my pandemic project. A lot of things shut down, slowed down, and I had a young man by the name of Jordan Funkhauser who worked in the food science building come to me and say, wouldn't a brewing program in the food science department be great? Well, I agreed. I'm a home brewer, and so it struck me as something that I had the time to look into. It took us over a year to get everything in place.
You had to walk through a lot of, I imagine, red tape and brick walls to get to where we are right now.
Well, not only calling it a crazy idea, but an irresponsible one. Are you kidding?
Right.
Exposing college students to alcohol?
Right.
So there were a lot of hoops to jump through, and I learned the university was a much bigger place than I ever imagined, considering the groups that I had to get approval through.
Well, this isn't the sort of class I'm assuming that you could just take. I mean, this is pretty high science stuff. You'd have to really, you can't just walk in here on your first day on campus and be part of the ISU.
Well, that's
lab.
correct. Now, I will point out the most important prerequisite for the course.
Right.
You had to be 21 years old
That makes
at the
sense.
time that we offered the first class, because we start brewing beer the first day of class.
Right on.
But I want it to be open to many students. So the only other prerequisite is that they had some exposure to some physical, chemical, or biological science.
What does the first day of school look like, the first day of class?
First day of class is I give them a real brief overview of how to brew a 1-gallon batch of beer. Now I do that partly to give them just some fundamentals of what's involved, but also to engage them immediately, because many of them come in and look at the syllabus the first day and decide, I'm out of here.
Right, because you think you're taking a beer class and you think it's going to be some sort of Spuds McKenzie good time. That reference is probably lost on college kids today, but you know what I'm talking about. I mean, I like to think I majored in beer 30 years ago, but not officially. You mentioned you're a home brewer. How long have you been doing that?
Well, I didn't even drink beer till well into my 50s.
What?
And it was my three sons became of age, and they said, Dad, there's this different kind of beer. It's not, it's not Bud Light kind of stuff. And I sampled, I said, well, this is pretty good. And before long, they said, well, we should try to brew it at home.
Your kids must have known that, once they introduced this to you, you were going to take to it.
No, I think they were hoping I would take to it.
They were hoping, okay.
Because then we started creating a lot more beer. Now, we had to move out of the kitchen because that was too much of a mess.
Gotcha. What are they working on right now back there?
Well, they're doing a competition IPA.
Okay.
So this was an opportunity for the instructors not to tell them how they were going to produce the beer, not tell them what the recipe was, but they needed to develop a recipe for an IPA, and then we will bring in a panel of brewers to evaluate and judge it. And the winner, we will then scale up their brewing and offer it for sale.
Now that's another important component here, is that the beer that you make, this is not something you're going to find on the store shelves at Hy-Vee anytime soon, but it is available at a couple of key locations.
So we keg some of the beer, and we have sold it to the Iowa Tap Room down in Des Moines. Here on campus, there in the Memorial Union is a place called the Maintenance Shop, where students of age can go in and buy a can of beer. Well, we've helped set up a tap system for them over there. So we're offer exclusively at the maintenance shop beer from the Brew Lab that's on tap.
Since it started now, and you started the whole process in 2020 and started brewing in what, 21?
Yes.
What have you learned since you've started this program? What have you either learned from the process or from the students?
Well, I've learned from the students that many of them are extremely smart.
Right.
They've had great coursework. They may be, A students, but they haven't had as many opportunities to do hands-on things.
Right.
And this is an opportunity for them actually to apply some of the things they've learned. Many of the students are engineering students. Get their hands dirty, learn how pumps can fail, and they do, and how heat exchangers can get fouled, and they do. And so it's a real, I think for many of the students, eye-opening on, oh, this is a real world. This is how things really go.
So, and it's been 30 plus years since I've been in college, but is it a lab situation where you have a lab partner? Do they work in teams?
It's a team sport here because we have a lot of demand, but fairly limited equipment. We will assign 5 students to a brew house, and these are 10-gallon systems that they work with.
What do you hope that they're going to take away from what they've learned in this class?
First and foremost is that they know what craft beer is.
Right.
I'm surprised how many of them have no idea what craft beer is, or they know what it is and have never sampled it. Partly because they feel it's too expensive, partly because it's not the typical college culture.
Right.
And I'm astonished to learn how many of them end up being kind of beer snobs before the course is even over, going to the bars and insisting to know which beer is which, knowing when a beer glass is actually dirty because the bubble's going up the side of it. And so getting some practical understanding of what the craft beer industry is about, what makes it unique.
How many of them do you think will end up going on to careers in brewing?
A small portion of them, because we catch them in their senior year.
Right.
Many of them are already interviewing or have jobs lined up, but I have seen some take their knowledge and go into graduate programs to study issues related to the brewing industry, and some of them have gone into the brewing industry. But generally, it's too late to convince them of that.
Right, because they hopefully have things figured out by the time they're a senior here at Iowa State. I love the idea. I have a son who will be in college in a couple of years, and I love the idea of him making something for me that's not an ashtray. You know what I'm saying?
Send him my way.
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to bring.
But he's got to come to Iowa State.
I think that might be something he's thinking about doing. I'm going to bring home some brochures, and you can count on me, Doc. I'm going to start leaning on him pretty heavy to become a Cyclone. So this is the part that's going to blow your mind. At least it blew my mind. Sarah, you're working on some crazy stuff, and I know, Alex, you're working on some crazy stuff.